I was gonna start my review with if you don't like and subscribe, a unicorn dies, but after watching this movie, maybe that's not such a bad thing. You should like and subscribe regardless of the fate of said fictional unicorn. Welcome to the channel, you magical creatures. Today I'm talking about A24's Death of a Unicorn, the directorial debut of Alex Scarfman, starring Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, Richard E. Grant, and Téa Leoni. A father and daughter hit a unicorn on the way to a business retreat at a billionaire's estate, and the creature may be exploited for financial gain over its healing abilities. I went into this movie fairly neutral. I kind of forgot about the trailer and marketing, and honestly, this movie isn't really what I expected because I also left fairly neutral. I think there's an equal amount of good and bad things in this movie that depended on your mood. Maybe you fall on one side of the coin. This movie is such a mixed bag for me. On one hand, I think there's a lot that it wants to say. And on the other hand, it doesn't say much about each thing that it does want to talk about. I need to get my biggest criticism of this movie out of the way up front and say Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega have little to no chemistry as father and daughter. Jenna Ortega is playing Ridley, an angsty and anxiety-fueled art college student, and Paul Rudd is playing Elliot, a consumed by work with no outside life, naive father. And there's not even the slightest spark between them that convinces me that they are related. I know they're supposed to be emotionally distant from the setup of the movie, but it feels too estranged, almost like they're on two completely different planets.
I don't even know who you are.
Was it overly purposeful? Maybe, but it makes it hard for me to sympathize with them and care about the plight they're about to go through. I'm being a little bit hypercritical because it's not like they didn't try. They try to have conversations about how this job with the billionaires is only going to be beneficial for them both financially. The opening scene is Ridley sleeping on her dad's shoulders, and he tries to reach some papers that he dropped without disrupting her. Ultimately, Elliot does reach forward and Ridley slams her head in the armrest, and therefore it establishes that Elliot will be choosing work over family throughout this entire movie. I like the subtlety of the message in that scene. The rest of the movie, it's just on the nose about how Elliot chooses work over Ridley when she's so insistent on how dangerous the endeavors of the billionaires are, when she's feeling sick, when they talk about their personal issues. It does bring in the great question: what if you are choosing work over family for financial reasons, for the benefit of your family as a whole, and yet you need to find a healthy balance between work and personal life? Especially in the case of grieving, it's a complicated, double-edged sword that could have been explored more, and it would have been more impactful if the central relationship was crafted better. The other rough part for me is the billionaire family, more specifically Will Poulter. For all intents and purposes, Will Poulter is playing his character from Midsommar, a one-tracked mind, dumb as a horse, and to a fault, because I don't think his jokes landed for me. I genuinely belly laughed at one joke that Will Poulter said. I can't even recall what it was, so that tells you how impactful it was. Otherwise, I just breathed emphatically whenever I saw something slightly amusing. I do fall into the minority though, because everyone thought his lines were hilarious, but all of the billionaire family, Richard E. Grant, Téa Leoni, they are playing their characters so cartoonishly that you know for a fact this will become an Eat the Rich movie. You could also tell this is going to be an Eat the Rich movie just kind of based on how the family treats the help. More specifically, their butler Grift, played by Anthony Carrigan, and the working doctors played by Stephen Park and Sunita Mani. It sounds like I'm critiquing a ton, but I really don't hate the acting. They're playing the most insufferable people that you could ever meet. By the way, it was killing me where I thought I knew Sunita Mani from, and it's the freaking Turn Down for What music video.
Turn down for what?
But this Eat the Rich movie is about the pharmaceutical industry and the exploitation in that industry. The unicorn has healing properties in its blood and horn, and it heals Jenna Ortega's acne, Paul Rudd's eye vision, and allergies. Richard E. Grant has his tumors healed, and so now it's time to milk this thing for all it's worth and skyrocket the price. The parallels to real life are quite obvious, with insulin for diabetics, life-changing medical treatments. Like, doesn't it suck that you gotta pay an arm and a leg in order to stay alive? There's also this opioid addiction kind of thing that's explored in an odd way, I might add. And again, I think you could have gone so much deeper with these messages because it's fairly surface level. One more nitpick that I have is oddly related to Midsommar. because both of the plots in Death of a Unicorn and Midsommar are told through tapestry, except again, Death of a Unicorn dumbs it down by narrating it to you. And if we were going to borrow anything from Midsommar, we should have borrowed the uncomfortableness. I think Death of a Unicorn would work a lot better if the tension and the uncomfortableness was built better. Until that shift happens at the 1 hour mark of this movie, I really was not on its wavelength. However, I feel like I can safely say that the second half of the movie is much more action packed. It has better tension, it is slightly funnier, I guess, it's scarier. Remember how I said I forgot everything about the trailer? I totally forgot this was a horror movie. For one, I really like the idea of taking a mythical creature that generally has this pop culture aura of being a good, majestic, loving creature, stripping away its fantasticalness. In a way, bringing it back to the fact that a unicorn is a wild animal, and its instincts are to be wild, protective of their young, and harnessing their power for selfish human purposes is problematic. I love the unicorn designs with the intricate horn and the teeth. I don't think the CGI completely lands it all the time, but it is menacing in a way it becomes the hunter and the humans are the hunted. The kills are more creative than they need to be for an animal whose primary weapon is its horn. There's a good play on a draw and quartering, and when you're killing a bunch of people that I don't really care about, you find me rooting for the unicorn.
Fine, so you learned our secret. We're jerks, okay?
And at this point is when you get into the themes surrounding grief and following through on those dynamics that should have been presented better for Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. By the end of the movie, I can safely say that I cared about their dynamics. But speaking of the end of the movie, I thought it would piss me off the way that it was headed. I do think it redeems itself, but dude, I was about to get heated. I was finally on the wavelength of this movie. Please don't ruin it in the last couple minutes. And overall, I did leave positive on Death of a Unicorn. Like I said, the audience I was with was feeling it. They were laughing at things. Again, I like the things that Death of a Unicorn is trying to say. They could have just dived deeper with everything, but this is a directorial debut. I would look forward to whatever else Alex Scarfman has up his sleeve. I think there are some solid ideas, and with more experience, the filmmaking will become more polished. If anything, it's an original idea, and we should be supporting that in theaters or renting it at home when it's available. I wouldn't rush myself out to the theaters to watch this, but I do give Death of a Unicorn 3 out of 5 stars. Maybe on a bad day, I drop it a notch. I just wish there was a bit more magic to this to make me love it.
No!
Thank you for watching. My name is Kyle. I'm still learning to fall in love with the medium of cinema, and if you'd like to join me on that journey, you should hit subscribe, hit the bell, and follow me on Letterboxd. Comment below your thoughts on Death of a Unicorn and what's your favorite mythological creature. Don't forget to like the video, and until next time, that's a wrap.